Okay, looks like we are live. Sergeant, can you start your recordings, please?
PC recording is up.
Thank you. Cloud recording rolling. Make sure that the live stream is good. Live stream look good. Good morning and welcome to the New York City Council remote hearing on the Subcommittee on Landmarks, Public Siting, and Disposition. At this time, will all panelists please turn on your videos? Thank you. To minimize disruption, please place all electronic devices to vibrate or silent mode. If you wish to submit testimony, you may do so at landusestestimony@council.nyc.gov. I repeat, landusestestimony@council.nyc.gov. Chair, you're ready to begin.
Good morning. I'm Councilmember Farah Lewis, Chair of the Subcommittee on Landmarks, Public Sightings, and Dispositions. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Council Members Felice, Ung, Marte, Botcher, Vernikov, and Nurse. Today we will vote on LU 61 and 62 for the EMS Station 17 new facility, which we heard these at our meeting on June 7th. LU 61 relates to an application that was submitted by DCAS and FDNY requesting approval of a site selection of property located at 1257 Morris Avenue in the Bronx for the use of an ambulance station. LU 62 relates to an application that requests the grant of a special permit pursuant to section 74-67 of the zoning resolution to allow an FDNY emergency medical service station used in a residence district. These actions would facilitate the construction of a proposed two-story EMS station building on property located in and on R7-1 district located at 1257 Morris Avenue in the Bronx Council District represented by Councilmember Stevens. With the support of the local council member, I now call for a vote to approve LU 61 and 62. Council, please call the roll. I vote aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Council, your speaker is going in and out a little bit.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Look at here, Council.
Councilmember Nurse. Member Nurse.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't tell because it's kind of coming in funny. I can't tell if it's on my end. Sorry. Thank you.
Councilmember, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Councilmember Vernikov, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mark. Next. You're mute.
Aye. Can you hear me?
You're in negative.
I can't hear the council. I vote aye. I just can't do it.
Okay.
I couldn't hear the council either.
Council, the speaker's going in and out a little bit.
Can you hear me now? Can you be better?
Can you say that one more time? No,
Can the backup count over?
it's coming spotty. Let's just give the council a second.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, can you try taking off your headphones? Maybe. Maybe that's the issue because they're going through the headphones. Just see if that works. If not, I'll step in and we probably have to redo the vote. Let's just give the council a second. All right, speak
Can you hear me now?
a little better. There's something that's muffling the sound of your speaker.
If you could see.
Yeah, you're still a little spotty.
Angelina, he said you could proceed.
Yeah.
Rectify.
Hold on. So council members, give me just 1 second because we're going to have to redo the vote so that I can do the tally myself. So for the EMS item, I'm going to call the roll again. Chair Lewis,
I vote aye.
Council Member Felice,
I vote aye.
Council Member De La Rosa. She's here. Apologies. I don't see her. Council Member Marte,
I vote aye.
Council Member Nurse,
Aye.
Council Member Ung,
Aye.
and Council Member Vernicott.
Aye.
Give me just 1 second to do the tally. The current vote stands at 6 in the affirmative, no negatives, no abstentions. And Chair, do we leave the vote open? Councilmember De La Rosa is not here.
Okay.
So we'll leave the vote open.
Do you want me to proceed or you want me to stand by?
We can proceed with the hearing, Chair, and then we'll see if the subcommittee council comes back, but I can do the announcements and proceed as with your remarks. I'll just be stepping in for him.
All right. Thank you. I now recognize the council to explain today's hearing procedures.
Give me just 1 second to get my script ready. Hold on, council members, apologies. This is why we have a backup, right? So. All right, so here we go. Thank you, Chair Lewis. I am Angelina Martinez Rubio, stepping in as counsel to the subcommittee. Members of the public who wish to testify were asked to register for today's hearing. If you registered to testify and are not yet signed into Zoom, please sign in now and remain signed in until after you have testified. Hold on. If you wish to testify and have not registered, please go to www.council.nycc.gov/land use to sign up now. If you are not planning to testify on today's items, please watch the hearing on the New York City Council website. All people testifying before the subcommittee will be on mute until they are recognized to testify. Please confirm that your mic is unmuted before you begin speaking. Public testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per witness. If you have written testimony that you would like the subcommittee to consider in addition to or in lieu of appearing before the subcommittee, or if you require an accessible version of a presentation given at today's meeting, please email landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number or project name in the subject line of the email. During the hearing, council members who would like to ask questions should use the Zoom raise hand function, which appears at the bottom of the participant panel. I will announce council members who have questions in the order that they raise their hands. Witnesses are reminded to remain in the meeting until they are excused by the chair. Lastly, there may be extended pauses if we encounter technical problems. We ask that you please be patient as we work through these issues. Chair Lewis will now continue with today's agenda. And Chair, I just got a word that Councilmember De La Rosa is here, so can I just take her vote?
Yes, please.
Councilmember De La Rosa, how do you vote?
I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. So the final vote stands at 7 in the affirmative, no negatives, no abstentions, and the items are approved and recommended to the full Land Use Committee.
Thank you. We continue now with our public hearing on today's agenda. We will now hear the pre-considered LUs related to application numbers C220220ZMM and N220219ZRM for the Lirio 806 9th Avenue project. Both applications were submitted by the Department of Housing and Preservation and Development. Application C220220ZMM was submitted pursuant to sections 197-C and 201 of the New York City Charter for an amendment of zoning map section 8C, eliminating from within an existing R8 district a C1-5 district and changing from an R8 district to a C6-2 district. Application N220219ZRM was submitted pursuant to sections 201 of the New York City Charter for an amendment of the zoning resolution of the City of New York, modifying a special permit provision of Article 11, Chapter Special Clinton District, Borough of Manhattan, Community District 4, and Council District 3. These actions would help facilitate the development of a new 9-story mixed-use building containing approximately 111 affordable and supportive housing units, retail space, and new office space for the MTA in the Clinton Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of Manhattan, represented by Councilmember Bottcher. Is Councilmember Bottcher available for remarks?
Thank you so much, Chair Lewis, and thank you so much, everyone, for attending. This is my first ULURP on the City Council, and it's a doozy, this ULURP. There's nothing more controversial than deciding how to use public land in a city like New York City. And here we are deciding how to use one of the last remaining vacant lots on the west side. So today we're going to hear 2 points of view on this topic. On one hand, this was supposed to be 100% middle and middle upper income affordable housing. It's part of a deal that an agreement that the Bloomberg administration made, Christine Quinn and Community Board 4 at that time. And on one hand, you've got folks saying that we need housing for middle income folks on the west side, like nurses and firefighters, et cetera. The original agreement was for this to be up to 165% AMI, which is someone making $150,000 a year. And some folks are saying that, even though that sounds like a lot in New York now, that's an income band that needs affordable housing. And a deal was made, that agreement needs to be upheld. And some folks are saying that we already have enough supportive housing and housing for the homeless. We don't need any more. Some folks are saying that we can't take any more, but that we want this deal upheld the way it was envisioned. On the other hand, you have folks saying that the world has changed in the last 15 years since this was originally planned, and we didn't have 60,000 people living in shelters every night waiting for housing to be built. And on city-owned land, we should be building housing for people who don't have homes and for people who really can't afford homes anywhere else. We shouldn't be building housing on city-owned land for people making that much money. And this is supposed to be proposed to be housing for long-term survivors of HIV and AIDS, and where better than in Hell's Kitchen, which has the highest rates of HIV and AIDS in the city. I happen to think that we can have both types of housing on this site. That's what the borough president recommended. That's what city planning recommended. I think we could figure out how to do both on this site. But let me just say that I think it's a big missed opportunity that we're only building 111 units of housing on this lot. 111 units isn't going to put a dent in either of the problems, middle income or housing for the homeless. It's a drop of the housing that we need. We could have had more units of housing on this lot, but this was, like many of my colleagues, were taking a ULURP that was crafted by previous administrations who were working within the ULURP that we have. I intend as a council member to build much, much more housing of all kinds. We need to build much, much more housing. 111 units, I think, is a big opportunity, but that's what we're deciding today. I want to thank you, Chair Lewis, and my colleagues, council staff, and all the folks who are coming out to testify today as we hear about this project from the applicants, hear all the members of the community who are coming forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Batra, for those sentiments. We are joined today by Felipe Cortez, Paris Strader from HPD, Sarah Pfizer, and Aaron Kaufman from Hudson Companies, Moonsun Park from the MTA, and forgive me for butchering this, Leonie Shea from the NYCT Department of Subways, and Colton Ho Nycc from Housing Works. Council, please administer the affirmation.
Applicants, can you please raise your right hand? Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name, but please, I'm going to call on each of you individually to answer the following question. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in your answer to all council member questions? Aaron Kaufman?
I do.
Felipe Cortez?
I do.
Munson Park?
I do.
Leonie Che?
I do.
Paris Trotter?
I do.
And Colton Howe Nycc?
I do.
I believe I didn't call on Sarah Pfizer.
I do.
That's all. Thank you all.
If you have a PowerPoint presentation, it will be displayed upon your request. You all may begin.
Thank you. I'm gonna give it a second for the presentation to come up. Okay, so good morning, Chair Lewis and council members. I am Felipe Cortez, Director of the Manhattan Planning Team at HPD. I am excited to be here today presenting you the delivery project, an affordable housing project that will result in the construction of a new 9-story building containing approximately 112 affordable and supported housing units, 100% affordable and supported housing units. The proposed development also includes ground floor retail space and office space for the adjacent MTA building at the ground and second floors of the proposed development. I'm joined here by other representatives from HPD and the development team who will introduce themselves in the presentation or when they answer questions as needed. Next slide, please. As part of the ULURP application, HPD seeks approval of the following land use actions: disposition of development rights from the existing MTA building, acquisition of condominium within the proposed building for the MTA expansion, a zoning text amendment to establish CPC Special Permit 96-112 to modify lot coverage in the preservation area applicable only to the development site, a special permit pursuant to 96-112 to modify lot coverage and height setback regulations applicable to the development site. And lastly, a rezoning from R8, C15 and RA districts to C62 district in the rezoning area. Next slide, please. HPD is excited about this project as it provides a unique opportunity to develop a long-standing vacant underutilized city-owned land with much needed 100% affordable and supportive housing units. At this time, I turn the presentation to Sarah Pizer, a representative of the development team, who will provide further details on the proposed project. Sarah?
Thank you, Felipe. My name is Sarah Pizer. I'm a development director at the Hudson Companies. Delirio will provide 112 units of permanently affordable housing. 67 of those units will be designated for formerly homeless individuals, and 59 of those units will be supportive housing targeted towards long-term survivors of HIV and AIDS. We will also have 44 units of affordable rental housing up to 80% AMI. And I want to note that the affordable housing originally went up to 60% AMI. We then added 70% and 80% AMI tiers after getting initial feedback from CB4 prior to ULURP certification. And of course, we'll have one supers unit as well. Delirio will also include 115 square feet of community space for supportive services provided by HousingWorks. HousingWorks will provide on-site case management to develop a person-centered service plan for supportive housing residents. We'll also have a 5,400 square foot accessible landscape terrace and a 1,900 square foot rooftop garden accessible to all residents. Other amenities will include a fitness center, bike storage, and 24-hour front desk staff, as well as designated office space for HousingWorks. Next slide, please. So here you can see our proposed affordability distribution, or our unit size distribution. The Western Royal Yards points of agreement require that 50% of the units at the site be 2 bedrooms or larger, which we are accomplishing here. And as you can see, the studios are mostly in the formerly homeless category, while the 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms are mostly spread out among the affordable housing AMI tiers. Next slide, please. Here are our qualifying incomes and rents based off of 2022 AMIs. So I know there's a lot of numbers here, but Delirio could be home to a family of 4 at 40% AMI, making up to $53,000 a year, or a couple making $74,000 a year combined at 70% AMI, or a single parent and a child making up to $85,000 per year at 80% AMI. The monthly rents are also shown here, and we're happy to return to this slide in the Q&A, as I know that there's a lot of numbers here. Next slide. Delirio will also include retail along 9th Avenue. That will be approximately 7,100 square feet of ground floor retail and 7,800 square feet in the cellar to be used as back of house space. We've heard that there's a strong desire from the community for a grocery store here, and we're doing our best to accomplish that goal. We've worked with StreetSense, a retail marketing consultant, to better understand how a potential grocer may view our space in terms of proximity to other grocers, neighborhood demographics, et cetera. And we've also brought on Ripco as our retail broker to be our boots on the ground presence, talking to grocers and understanding what their requirements are. So we hope to have more news on this front as we progress through pre-development. Next slide. I'll turn it over to Moonsun for this one.
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning. I am Moonsun Park, Associate Director of Development and Zoning at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. The MTA will be occupying approximately 30,000 square feet of office space, which will be located partly on the first floor and entirely on the second floor of Delirio. The future space is being called the Rail Control Center Annex, or RCC Annex, because it will be an extension of the existing adjacent Rail Control Center. The RCC is the Mission Control Center for the New York City Transit subway system, where train movements are monitored. The RCC is responsible for controlling service on all system lines, which include 472 stations, 665 miles of mainline track, and over 6,000 rail cars. The span of control provided by the RCC is multi-jurisdictional, encompassing not only the MTA system operations, but critical response by the New York City Police Department and the New York City Fire Department. The RCC is also the center for dispatching incident response teams to directly address incidents throughout the system. The RCC is one part of a control center complex. Adjacent to the RCC to the south is the Power Control Center, or PCC, located at West 53rd between 8th and 9th Avenues, which controls the power supply for the entire subway system. And as you can imagine, the RCC is a highly secure facility and one that is supported by an extensive staff throughout the day. But the existing building is being reconfigured to accommodate future technologies that will further support the modernization of the subway system, which therefore requires a reprogramming of space and the relocation of RCC staff into the future RCC Annex. The staff within the RCC Annex will continue to support the operations within the RCC. The RCC Annex is being designed to have a physical connection between the second floor of the Lirio to the existing RCC to ensure the complete and uninterrupted operation of the control centers. In addition to the office space, the Lirio will include 15 below-grade parking spaces for RCC emergency response vehicles. These vehicles are essential for employees to quickly respond to situations within the subway system. They will not have sirens, and I do want to emphasize that the parking spaces will only be used for RCC vehicles and not for any personal vehicles. Next slide.
Thanks, Munson. I want to note that the Lirio will be designed to passive house standards, the most rigorous energy efficiency building standards. This is something that the Hudson Companies has recent experience with. We completed the house at Cornell Tech in 2017, which was the tallest and largest passive house building at the time it was completed. We also have a number of other projects in design and construction that are designed to passive house standards. And also in the Lirio, we have green roofs, as you can see in our rendering, and rooftop solar. Next slide. So since we've started ULURP, Community Board 4 requested that we modify the proposed height and setback to better reflect the context of the surrounding blocks. So while what we originally proposed, the before here, complies with the Western Rail Yards Agreement as well as CB4's initial recommendations on height for the site, we wanted to accommodate this request. And so we have made a slight redesign to the building to accomplish what you see here as the after. So CB4 is supporting a max height of 99 feet on 9th Avenue, as long as we provide the required 10-foot setback at the 66-foot street height limit to ensure height consistency with nearby tenement buildings on 9th Avenue. So we've been able to accommodate this change. There's an ATEX application that has been submitted to DCP to amend our ULURP application. And I also want to note that we were able to maintain the rooftop gardening area for tenant access, as well as the green roofs and solar panels with this redesign. Next slide. So Community Board 4 also expressed that the two-story expression of the residential entrance was not of a residential scale. And I want to note that the residential lobby is not a double height space, and that the second story above the residential entrance is actually MTA office space. But the two-story expression that you see here on the before was designed to create a visual separation along 54th Street between the retail on 9th and the MTA entrance further down 54th. And we have this kind of cool perforated metal screen over glass with an organic leaf pattern to evoke the name of the building, named after the liriodendron tree, which is the oldest living tree in New York City. But we will keep that perforated metal screen and just kind of break that up into two separate glass expressions to avoid the double height expression, as you see here in the after image. Next slide. So here you can see what that looks like from a street view with the revised residential entrance glass. I want to note that one additional change that we are considering from the community board is a brick color change. We currently have this kind of gray mix of bricks here, and we are looking into potentially something more in the brown palette to be a little bit more contextual with the surrounding buildings. So we don't have any images of that quite yet, but we're happy to keep folks posted on that as we continue to work on that with our design team. Next slide. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Council, are there any council members with questions?
Chair Lewis, do you have a question? I have questions, but if you have questions, Chair Lewis, go ahead, please.
No, you should start now. I just have two little basic questions. Take it away. Go ahead.
No, you please go. Thank you.
All right, just two little basic questions. I wanted to know what criteria HPD was using to identify the formerly incarcerated individuals. Sometimes HPD has a tendency to provide housing for formerly incarcerated individuals that live in New Jersey. That happened in my district and so many other districts. So they used to live in New York, but somehow ended up in Jersey and back in New York. So I wanted to know what that criteria is. And I wanted to know regarding the entrance, are all residents utilizing the same entrances, the same entrance for the project? And that's about it. From there, we could, I'll yield to Councilmember Batra from there.
I think HPD will take that. Thank you for your question, Chair Lewis. I'm going to address the second part of your question first. There's not going to be separate entrances for the residential tenants. All tenants will access through the same door. Regarding the formerly incarcerated tenants, I'm not sure this project is not targeting formerly incarcerated tenants or individuals.
Formerly homeless. On the presentation said formerly homeless.
Yeah. So this project, we're gonna work with HRA and DHS on how to identify those individuals. They're gonna be HRA and DHS referrals. DHS and HRA, they have methodology to identify these tenants. As you know, these formerly homeless will be individuals that have substance abuse and other kind of like conditions. In addition to that, we are going to be working with Housing Works and these other agencies to kind of target it, HIV and AIDS survivors, to add another layer of during the selection process. So we will be working with them closely on how to identify these individuals and families.
Okay, I just want to ensure that you all are including the council member in that conversation along with the community board. All right, I'll yield to Councilmember Batra from here.
Yeah. We as of now we've been engaging with members of CP4, their leadership, and I believe we're more than welcome to continue working with them and the council members Batra's team. So yeah.
All right, Councilmember Batra.
So this site is a 150 by 150 foot lot, but the zoning action that we're considering today stretches 500 feet far beyond this lot. Why is the city doing this?
Correct me, let me see if I understand the question correctly. Are you specifically asking why the city is pursuing a rezoning action?
Yeah, this zoning action encompasses like the larger block going all the way east to consume the MTA, existing MTA building, goes down to 53rd Street. When we're only building on this specific lot, why does the zoning action stretch beyond the lot that we're considering?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilman So we targeted the zoning to be really about the existing commercial uses on the block. So we carved out the residential property, but because our building that we're building, the Lirio, will have the RCC annex, and it's going to be connected to the existing MTA building. It makes sense for the zoning to be rectified on both parcels. So the rezoning stretches for not just this property, but the basically all the commercial properties in the block.
This project is it within the Special Clinton District, which was created in 1973 to preserve the existing housing and prevent the commercialization of the Clinton Hills Kitchen area. And this would be the first action since 1973 in which the city rezoned an underlying residential zone to a commercial zone within this boundary. Is that correct?
That's what CB4 had told us. I can't verify that that's correct or not, but that's what we were told by CB4.
And you understand the community board's concerns about a zoning action that would create a new precedent, which would violate the previous precedent about commercial zoning within the Special Clinton District. What I would like to know is, can you commit to working with my office and the community board, find a way to accomplish construction of a new building without this sweeping zoning action that extends so far beyond the site?
Yeah, we had worked with Community Board 4 and Council Land Use to see if there were alternatives. This is the best zoning strategy, and we do believe it's not a precedent setter because we're really just targeting the existing commercial areas on the block. We're not rezoning residential properties that would be at risk of turning to commercial. So we don't see this as a precedent setting action, but we do understand the concerns from the community, and we're open to still working to see if there is an alternative to the current zoning strategy. So happy to continue to meet with your office, of course, and the community board.
Well, my land use team believes that there are alternatives, and I do look forward to working with you in the days ahead to end with Community Board 4 to come up with some alternatives. I have a question about AMIs, because we often use these acronyms and spit out these numbers. But for everyone who's here, can HBD please walk us through what AMIs translate to? What is the income for an individual at 60% AMI, 70% AMI, 80, 90, 100, and so on? Can you please give us the income for an individual for each of those bands?
Well, we can, if possible, I think we have that slide in there as part of the presentation that we can show you basically what would be the MIs targeting this project as of now.
Not
So,
asking
for example,
about this project. Help us educate the public with me about what the different AMIs are. For how much is someone making at 60%, 80%, 100%? Could you just, it'll take, a minute. Read those off for us.
sure, let me
Thank
try
you.
to pull that up. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so right now, for 2022, the MI is for a family of 3 at 60% of MI, it's 72,000, approximately 72,000. And then 70 is going to be 84, and 90 is going to be 108. 100% of MI is $120,000. Let me see, 120% of MI is going to be 144, and 130% of MI is about $156,000. 165% of MI right now is about, for a family of 3, obviously, is almost $200,000, $198,000.
And 165 is the maximum,
Is the maximum what?
is the most AMI of the available bands. 165 is
Well, that's what we have as reference, but I just want to clarify that HP doesn't have any term sheets that cover those MIs. Our
Right.
top, it's 120, 130% of MI.
those AMIs are commonly put into categories. Low income, middle income. Which of those AMIs qualify as low income? Are they defined? That'd be 80% AMI, 60.
So let me see. So the extremely low income is going to be from 0 to 30% of MI. The very low income is going to be from 31 to 50% of MI. The low income is going to be from 51 to 80. And then moderate income is going to go from 81 to 120. And middle income is 120 to 165.
The retail space at the on the ground floor, it was originally envisioned to be a Housing Works retail space, another Housing Works thrift store, which everyone loves. But throughout this process, it's been expressed over and over that there is a need for a grocery store. However, the grocery store being proposed is of a certain size. It's not like a supermarket size. Can you commit to working with my office and the community board and the MTA to get a supermarket sized retail space on the ground floor?
You're correct. The initial proposal for this project incorporated both ideas, to have maybe Housing Works flagship store or maybe a grocery store. The team was open to that. Housing Works and housing companies and Housing Works were open to that idea. Based on community board for feedback, the team move ahead with maybe facilitating the creation of the grocery store here, using the entire space for it. Related HPD and the development team committed to working with you on finding or committing to find the creation of this larger space for a larger supermarket. I believe that commitment is there. We've been holding meetings with you and your team and CB4 on this issue. The MTA, HPD, and the developer are committed to exploring possibilities. That's an ongoing process. We have mentioned before that it's challenging due to the constraints of the project and the needs of the MTA space and the critical and vital function that this additional space for the MTA will play, not only for CB4 but the city at large. So the commitment is still there. We are preparing. We had a meeting with your team last week. We are working on this, analyzing every possibility, And definitely we can continue that conversation with you and your team.
Why does this building only have 112 units of housing?
Why?
Yeah,
Well, I think we're trying to maximize what is allowable on this side based on zoning and the commandments part of the POA. So we are trying to maximize as much as we can the uses of what is allowed on the side right now, based on the constraints that we are working with. Sorry.
I'll have more questions as we continue, but I want to hear from the community. I want to hear from other stakeholders who are presenting. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you. I wanted to ask council if members of the public are available to testify.
So we have several members of the public who are here to testify, and we're gonna split them up in panels. So give me just 1 second to get the names of the first panel. And there were, by the way, no council members with questions at this moment, so you can dismiss the applicants at this moment, Chair.
Thank you. And I just want to thank the panel for their testimony, being that no more council member have questions. This panel is now excused and we will now transition to public testimony.
Yes, so just give me 1 second. We do have several members of the public who are here to testify. So we just ask all of you who have been waiting patiently just to give us a second, and we're going to call you in panels. So I'm getting the name of the first panel. So we need, give me just 1 second. All right, the first panel will be Juan Daniel Nolan, John Daniela, Joe Restuccia, Paul Devlin, and Christine Gorman. And apologies if I mispronounced your names. Here's my screen. We're admitting them, Chair, and we'll let you know when they're in. So I see that Jean Danielle Nolan is here, so he will be our first panelist. So sergeants, could you start the clock?
Thank you. I think I can be heard. I want to, good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Oh, great. My name is Jean Daniel Nolan. Good pronunciation. That's fine. I'm the co-chair of the Hell's Kitchen Land Use Zoning Committee of Manhattan Community Board 4. Now, some of you may, and excuse me for reading this, but some of you may recall the deliberations which led to the 2009 points of agreement struck between the City of New York and the community and this board. I remember because I was there. You're all too young to have been there. I was young too when this all started. A deal was struck. This site was supposed to be 100% moderate and middle income housing, not 0%, not 40%, 100%. 2 years ago, there was a sudden abrogation of this agreement. No discussion, no transparency. I still don't know why. Yes, times have changed, but what has not changed is that low-income people, people who need help, need to be integrated into this community, not put into some large facility and isolated from the community. Now, as many of you know, CB4 has supported and created low-income and supportive housing. We didn't just start. We've done this for decades. We support it. We fight for it. In the last 2 years alone, 3 years, I should say, 750 affordable units have been created in this district. Over 160 supportive units. Over 350 units under 60% AMI. This is not the debate regarding this site. This is a debate about how to fulfill the community, your mandate, city charter mandate, to make Hell's Kitchen a community of diverse incomes. This is about how to achieve the best we can for those folks who need the help. And this is about the integrity of an agreement. I know I have very few time left, but this board, this community, we have introduced SRO preservation. We have come up with affordable units for illegal demolition. I'm going to ask you this: what other district actually fights to make sure all the low-income units in a building have the same fixtures, the same furnishings at the market rate? Who else does this? And we achieve it. And you know why? Because we keep our word. We keep our word. Now, what we need here is a lot of low income, no question. The agreement was with the Western Rail Yards, lots of low income. We need a little moderate to keep the balance. We need income for teachers, for cops, for nurses, for a whole range of people, as well as low income. Everybody needs to live in a viable, balanced community. That's what we're fighting for. Yes, times have changed, but what has not changed is that people need to live in a balanced, livable neighborhood. That's what we're trying to achieve. We offer a compromise. The board compromises again and said, yes, let's have some supportive units. Let's have affordable units. Let's have everybody living together. That's what we're trying to achieve. So I want to thank you for listening to this. I'm sorry if I'm agitated, but you cannot understand how important it is, I feel, that we try to achieve the best we can for those low-income people, for those people in shelters, not put them in some facility and then say, oh, we're so virtuous. We check that box. No, we want them integrated into our neighborhood. We want them to live decently in our neighborhood with decent buildings, integrated with everybody else. So we support Borough President Levine's quote, arrive at an AMI mix that is closer to the original commitment outlined in the points of agreement. And Chair Lewis, I apologize if I got a little too passionate. Please forgive me.
Okay, thank you for your sentiments. I'm gonna yield back to the council.
Thank you, Jean-Daniel. The next speaker will be Joe Restuccia, followed by Paul Devlin.
Time will begin.
My name is Joe Restuccia. I'm the co-chair of the Housing, Health, and Human Services Committee in Manhattan Community Board 4. I'm a Hell's Kitchen resident since 1979, and this is my first time speaking against an affordable housing development. I'm executive director of Clinton Housing Development. We operate and manage affordable housing, including supportive housing across our district. This is a matter of a commitment that's been made in an integrated community. The idea that we are setting ourselves up one income group versus another is just simply ridiculous. As JD mentioned, this project is 60% homeless units. It was in a broad context, in a neighborhood context, in which our community board identified specific sites for SRO preservation for homeless units. We did that as part of the Western Rail Yards agreement. The agreement dates from 2009, and in a 1-block area, in a 3-block radius, there are 322 beds for homeless individuals. We are not creating integrated community in which homeless people are fully integrated into. The second thing is the zoning. This is a commercial rezoning, first time since 1973. It's a horrible precedent for our district. We believe it can be changed and accomplished in zoning text. This is a cynical move that was done by the de Blasio administration, the prior council member. We ask you to work with this new council member to come up with a better settlement and a better agreement in which there's a broader range of affordability. It's not just this project that is in front of you today. It's a commitment. Whatever you vote on in the next 3.5 years, beware, it could be discarded subsequently. That's our issue. Please look at this seriously. And we are a community that truly believes in integration and accepting a broad range of incomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. The next speaker will be Paul Devlin, to be followed by Christine Gorman.
Time will begin.
Hello, council members, and thank you for your time this morning. I am the co-chair of the Hell's Kitchen Land Use Committee of Community Board 4 alongside of J.D. Nyland. First, I'd like to dispel some of the political propaganda that's going around that anybody who opposes this project is opposed to people with longtime survivors of HIV and AIDS. This project will not provide housing for residents of Hell's Kitchen who are longtime survivors of HIV and AIDS. This housing is being designed for people being transitioned from homeless into housing. And you heard just now from HPD that this will be designed for transition from homeless, first for substance abusers, and HIV AIDS will be a layer of consideration. So please, let's stop talking about opposition to this, opposes people who are longtime survivors of HIV and AIDS, because we in fact do support longtime survivors of HIV and AIDS. Second is Councilmember Botcher, I'm glad to hear you laid out the framework in more stark terms of either supportive housing or middle income housing, and that we are no longer at that point. We are all in agreement that this should be a mixed development, that we want to see supportive housing mixed with middle income housing and moderate income housing. So we have proposed a method to integrate that, maybe lowering some of the income bands so you're not at 165%, maybe at 120% or 140%, maybe creating the donut hole. And you ask, why are there only 111 units? Well, the promise that MTA was given that they would get 30,000 square feet is a promise kept. They are getting their 30,000 square feet of office space in this building. Let's convert that into apartments. We could add another 30 or 40 apartments if we used that space for apartments instead of commercial office space. And the second thing is, I don't understand why they're getting a third parking garage on this site. They have 2 parking garages now, and they're saying they're going to build a third parking garage for emergency vehicles that no employees will park in. Well, if you walk by that lot now, you see the lot is littered with cars with New Jersey plates. These are MTA employees who cannot afford to live in our neighborhood and are driving into our neighborhood to go to work, and they're being provided free parking. So let's get rid of the parking garage, use that for some grocery store storage space, get rid of the 30,000 square feet of office space, and put in more middle income housing units. So please vote against the commercial rezoning of this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. The next speaker on this panel and the last speaker on this panel is Christine Gorman.
Hello, I'm Christine Gorman. I'm president of the West 55th Street Block Association and a member of the Hell's Kitchen Neighborhood Coalition. I'm going to submit written testimony as well, but what I want to underscore right now is something that Councilman Botcher brought up, and that's the zoning issue. Please vote against this on the on the zoning issue alone, because to change the zoning rules in the Clinton Special District is to allow all kinds of mischief to happen. We have seen this before. I live nearby in our area. We have seen what they call, it has a whole name, renovation through demolition, or demolition by neglect, rather. We have seen people abuse the rules. Please do not change the zoning rules. There are text amendments, as you yourself, Councilman Botcher, said your team believes can accomplish what is needed here through text amendments. Please vote against this on the zoning rules alone. Councilman Botcher will have much greater leverage if you vote against, because of this desire to change zoning rules, the zoning laws, which are literally unprecedented. Secondly, CB4 is willing to compromise. What you have what you have outlined today is the same thing that was outlined in October of 2021. I looked up the Patch article to make sure it's still 53% supportive housing. We asked Council Community Board 4 asked for 25% supportive housing instead of 100% affordable for moderate and middle income families. And then finally, check your numbers. When you talked about AMIs, I believe those must be citywide and not Health Kitchen numbers, because last I looked, the AMI, the median, not the average, because we have some people who make a ton of money, but the median income, the 100% level in Hell's Kitchen is right at $98,000 and not what you were saying of 120,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Chair, I don't see any council members with questions at this time, so I'm going to call on the second panel, which will be made up of Adrian McKenzie, Cesar. Oh, Councilmember Botcher has a question. Apologies, Councilmember Botcher. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Restuccia, could you please just give us a quick outlook of what you see the path is for getting, and he needs to unmute himself, please. What's the path to resolving the zoning issue in particular?
So in Manhattan Community Board 4 has worked with the Special Zoning District for many years, and we're wanting to accomplish an affordable housing project. We usually work through zoning text that gets us to a different path. So specifically in this case, zoning text that would allow this type of use if it is adjacent to a water supply facility, which is the upcoming DEP site, or an MTA facility. We believe it is possible to manage this through specifically crafted zoning text as opposed to underlying rezoning.
And the design of the building, there were a couple changes that were previously made. The door way out of scale for the neighborhood. It was more like a midtown entrance tall. That was brought down. The bulk was moved a little bit. What remains to be done with the design of the building?
The community board would like to work with the placement of the windows so they're not so random, so they're more regular as all the tenements are along 9th Avenue. And second, to work at a brick color that again fits in more to the surrounding context.
The brick color, it's like a purple almost. It doesn't fit, right?
I was surprised to hear they're looking at brown. There are no brown buildings in our district either. I think if it be something as simple as meeting with the developer, being on 9th Avenue and trying to come up with something that is that'll make the thing be in context as opposed to sticking out saying, I'm the community facility. You are, instead, we want you to be part of the neighborhood. That's the goal.
Maybe we could meet on 9th Avenue and instead of on Zoom and point out what we're trying to achieve. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Botcher. Now, Chair, I don't see any other council members' questions for this panel, so I'm going to call on the second panel, which will be Adrian McKenzie, Cesar Figueroa, Eric Sanson, and Philip Stone. So Adrian McKenzie will be the first one.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My message is going to be brief. I support the Delivery Project. We need more supportive housing and affordable housing in New York City. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adrian. The next speaker will be Cesar Figueroa, to be followed by Eric Sanson.
Time will begin.
I think he's trying to remove. There you go.
Hello, you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. My name is Cesar Figueroa. I sit on the Health Board for Housing Works. I'm a client and I'm a board member. I believe right now the way housing situation, they don't have any affordable housing for us clients constituents. Well, what do you call affordable? Not on our rate. What's going on now? Everything's all sky high. There's no low income. What do you call low income? Not what we make, but we need more affordable housing for us clients as much as constituents. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. The next speaker will be Eric Sanson, to be followed by Philip Stone.
Time will begin.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. My name is Eric Senzon. I'm the director of supportive housing at 3 of our congregate sites through Bailey House Housing Works. I am here to state that I am in favor of the Lirio project. And I just wanted to make a few points about what could be expected of another supportive housing program. Let me start by saying, I know I have to be very brief, but in 2016, I was a part of the upstart of a veteran housing program on West 95th Street. It was controversial. We, for the community who also, to some extent, was opposed to another supportive housing program in their community. But we have proven over the last 6 years on West 95th Street that we are successful partners, that the community that has developed there, the veterans who live there on West 95th Street are engaged in the community, are welcomed by the community, and are known to Community Board 7. We want to extend the same type of community partnership to Community Board 4 and Hell's Kitchen. We provide, as was indicated earlier on this call, that there's on-site supportive services. They are personalized services for each of the tenants who move in. Our sort of tagline at Bailey House Housing Works has always been that housing is healthcare. And as you all know, the current system of shelters do not offer that kind of support that an agency like ours provides successfully and has for many decades. That's pretty much all that I have to share, and I welcome engagement with all of you who want to know more about our services and support, and I hope we can make something work. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. The next speaker and the last speaker on this panel is Philip Stone.
Time will begin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Excuse me, my name is Philip Stone. I'm a New York City resident, and I wanted to express my support of the Lirio application. Simply put, I am a firm believer that New York City needs more supportive and affordable housing, especially in Manhattan. I believe that supportive housing works and is critical to the city, and I think it's almost impossible to go through any neighborhood in New York City and not immediately identify that as one of our biggest crises that we're dealing with is housing. As Eric mentioned, housing is healthcare. I've seen it work for people. They get the support that they can't find in the streets or in the shelters. They go back to school, they get jobs, they contribute, they make the communities richer, more diverse, and communities that heal people. And I'd love to see this application go through. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. I don't see any council members with questions, Chair, so I can go ahead and call on the third panel, which will be made up of Joanna Langfield, Richard Morans, and Robin Roshi. So the first speaker is Joanna Langfield.
Time will begin.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, you can begin.
Okay. Hi, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for this. I've lived in Hell's Kitchen since 1984, and honestly, it has just broken my heart to see what's happened to our neighborhood since 2020. The good news is that with the combined efforts of our councilperson's office and our police and our community board, wonderful community board, and fabulous block associations, we seem to be heading toward a better place. Push that. The Lirio project, as we know, is to be run by Housing Works, and we all love Housing Works. I do remember distinctly during one of the community board 4 meetings about this project that someone from Housing Works said they have a great working relationship with the neighborhood at their West 37th Street location on the street from the Lirio. Now, according to a recent article, which was in AM New York Metro, this seems to no longer be the case. By Housing Works having and handing out free needles in part of the Clean Needle Exchange program, that location, the neighbors and the Garment Center bid, they seem to feel, according to the article, that all best intentions aside, this is exacerbating what is already a very serious drug problem in the neighborhood. And it's a huge cost to the people who are living and trying to work there. Now, I asked last night on a Zoom call, the chief of staff from our councilperson, Eric Botcher's office, if Housing Works is planning on bringing that same service, the needle exchange program, to the Lirio. He didn't know. Now, I heard today on this call, which has been very informative and very helpful, that the city is working with the project to try to find people with substance abuse issues and put them in there. Now, I've asked for a follow-up on this. I want to know the answer. And I also want to know how that's going to impact the plan that was given to the community board several months ago. I realize this is very specific and only one of the many questions here today, but I'm sure you can appreciate our concerns on this. We who live in Hell's Kitchen have lived very happily with maybe the largest proportion of low income and supportive housing in the city. We, all of us, want and deserve to feel safe so we can stay here and we can thrive here. Thank you so much for listening to me and taking this serious consideration into. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. The next speaker will be Richard Morans, to be followed by Robin Broshi.
Time will begin.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm speaking against the MTA site project known as the Lirio. This is an enormous betrayal of our community by, at the very least, our previous councilperson, who completely went back on the commitments made to us for middle and moderate income housing, and in a totally untransparent and quite frankly sleazy maneuver, redid this RFP so that Housing Works could win, and then put in 112 units of supportive housing. We are counting on our current councilperson, Eric Botcher, to remedy this situation, stand up for us. We have proposed a compromise, and we are willing to accept certain 25% supportive housing. This from a neighborhood that has done more than its share, as detailed by the community board in their letters, to provide supportive and affordable housing. So we're against this project and urge you to vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. The next speaker will be, and the last speaker on this panel will be Robin Broshi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving space for this discussion. I am a parent of a child at Beacon High School, where I serve as the PTA president. I also am a member of the Community Education Council for District 2, which includes Hell's Kitchen. I'm speaking today, though, exclusively from my own perspective. And I want to speak in favor of this housing development, the supportive housing. I feel very comfortable. I understand their safety concerns, but as a parent of a young teenage daughter, choose to raise her in the city with all that entails. And not only am I passively comfortable with this in the area, but I'm excited that that the city can model behavior that I hope and values that I hope that she brings on, that she grows up with. I heard concerns about I heard everyone today speak in favor of supportive housing. And just concerns about this particular project. And all I have to say is, in my years of education advocacy, I understand that if you don't take the thing in front of you now, nothing changes. I've been disappointed a lot of times because there were process complaints and sort of issues with how things unfolded. And I know that if we really want to be a progressive city, we seize this opportunity and build supportive housing for families, for individuals that need the support. And I also want to talk about this idea of integration. Integration is an active choice. So whether housing is spread out throughout the community or it's concentrated in one building, it's going to take the Hell's Kitchen community, including schools in the area, and folks that are joining the community to work at that. And that needs to happen regardless of where people are housed. And I think that what I've seen today is that this is a community that can take that on. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Robin. Chair, I don't see any council members with questions at this time. So I'm going to call on the next panel. Just 1 second to get their names. So it will be Angelique Crevel. I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of your names. Rosemary Green, Joy Weefum, Robert Mays, and Peter Staley. So Angelique Previel will be the first speaker on this panel.
Time will begin.
Angelique, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, good morning. I support the project because we do need more affordable housing in New York City. The cost of living in New York City has skyrocketed over the years, making it almost impossible for families to afford rent. The inability to afford such elevated rent costs, has left many families homeless and searching for affordable housing. So I believe that bringing this unit to the community would be a huge help for the families that are homeless and searching for housing affordable to their income. So I'm against it. Thank you. I'm not against it. I'm for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Angelique. The next speaker on this panel will be Rosemary Green, to be followed by Joy Weefum.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Rosemary Green. I am a long-term housing advocate, member of the Bailey House Board for over 30 years, member of the Housing Work Board. I was around when housing wasn't happening. Bailey House pioneered supportive housing, and we showed to the city and showed to the country that we were the first agency ever to provide housing with support. That is a health right, it's a health issue, and it's important. I support the Lirio plan. I think that if you look at the communities where Bailey House Housing Works has programs, the community embraces us. They get nervous when we come in, but in the end, they embrace us because we bring stability and kindness because we're an agency with a heart. So I fully support the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. The next speaker will be Joy Weefum. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. To be followed by Peter Staley.
Hi, good morning. My name is Joy Weefum. I am a client of House and Works Bailey, Bailey House, and I also work for House and Works. They transitioned me from the shelter. I was living in the shelter for 3 years. They transitioned me last August into Bailey House here in Brooklyn. I've been doing fine. This has actually been something that has motivated me and given me so much strength to face, to get up, and face life again. I'm currently in nursing school. I am also currently a board of director for Legal Services NYC. So I know people have concerns and safety concerns, but not everybody from the shelter system, is and I even don't even want to go there, but I just want you to encourage, I just want to say that this project would actually change lives and would make people, would make people have, ambitions and be able to give them second chances to life again. So please, I am for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. The next speaker on this panel will be Peter Staley.
Can you hear me? Yes, my name is Peter Staley. I'm a long-term AIDS activist in New York City. I moved to New York in '83. I was diagnosed in the very scary year of 1985. And I became a prominent activist in a new movement, the greatest moment in queer history, ACT UP New York, and then went on to co-found the Treatment Action Group. And I've remained an AIDS activist until today, where I'm on the board of New York-based organization Prep for All, fighting for a national HIV prevention plan. I've lived in 4 apartments in New York, 3 in Manhattan and 1 in Brooklyn. I support this project. I know the history of Hell's Kitchen and AIDS. I know that the reason it had a high proportion of people with HIV in the 80s at the beginning of this crisis was because of the single block of Manhattan Plaza, which was filled with people working on Broadway in theater. A high proportion of gay men lived in that building, and we were the first community that was hit. That became a beautiful, supportive community for people with HIV. They were not scattered around Hell's Kitchen. They were in one building, and it was a beautiful thing. We need more of that. Housing Works, people might not know, came out of ACT UP. I was there when it happened. I was at the meeting when Charles King asked for some initial seed money from ACT UP's very strained budget. I actually spoke out against it because I was head of fundraising, and I thought we didn't have enough money to start giving money to other groups. But my God, what a beautiful organization it's become. I really, I hope the community will rally around this. I have a lot of faith in Councilman Botcher to do the right thing and make this the best possible project. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I don't see any council members with questions, Chair Lewis. So I'm going to go on to the next panel, and apologies for the background noise. Hold on. Let me get the next panel names. So next panel will be William Thomas, Judy Wessler, John Mudd, and Norman Smallwood. So William Thomas will be the first speaker.
Time will begin.
Hey there, can you guys hear me? Beautiful.
We can hear you.
Beautiful. Hello, Chair Lewis and members of the subcommittee. My name is Will Thomas. I serve as the Executive Director of Open New York. I'm excited to testify today in support of the land use application for the Lirio development. Open New York, my organization, is an independent grassroots pro-housing organization. We support Delirio because we feel that allowing more deeply affordable homes in Hell's Kitchen will go that much further in terms of addressing New York City's housing crisis. I believe everyone knows on some level that New York has a terrible housing shortage, but let me add some context to the conversation. Right now, New Yorkers are facing rent increases up to 50, 60, 70% as rent discounts offered during the pandemic expire. Homelessness is at the highest rate since the Great Depression. There are over 14,000 children who sleep in city shelters each night. So the 112 deeply affordable homes this development would provide are desperately needed, and especially for families and for survivors of HIV/AIDS, which this building would directly serve. In addition, I know members of the community board have opposed this project because they would prefer that middle-income housing be built on the site, and they feel the city is going back on the past promises. I hope such members can appreciate the housing crisis only worsened in recent years, and that a degree of flexibility has merit here. I would also emphasize that there are plenty of opportunities for middle-income housing in future mixed-income rezonings, which we would be happy to work with the community board on. It is far easier to provide middle-income units via the city's mandatory inclusionary housing policy than deeply affordable homes on non-city-owned land. This is a unique opportunity. Finally, I know a few block association members have opposed the project with quality of life concerns, but to put it plainly, we live in a city where there aren't enough homes for the people who want to live here. It has horrifying human consequences. That's the real terrible shadow over the neighborhood, the relevant quality of life issue to address. So I hope that council will certainly ignore these kinds of reactionary concerns, but ultimately vote to approve the project as is, as deeply affordable as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. The next speaker is Judy Wessler.
Time will begin.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Judy Wessler. I am a resident of Chelsea in supported housing. I had a fracture in my leg and lived in a 6th floor walk-up and could not continue that. Fortunately, Eric Botcher helped me, and I live in a CHDC building, and I want to support this project as so needed. If you want to economically integrate any place, I suggest Hudson Yards. We don't have enough housing for people with low incomes, and I totally support this project. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Judy. And I'm going to call on somebody from the last panel that I overlooked. Robert Mays, if you're in the meeting, can you unmute yourself? We'll come back to Robert. So I'm going to call on John Mudd.
Hi. Hi, I'm John Mudd. I'm with the Midtown South Community Council. And I appreciate this effort. I do. But it's really just a scratch. It's just a drop in the bucket. We shouldn't be quibbling over this project as we are. We should be rushing to devise more of, and I agree with the integration part, but we need more supportive. We need housing, period. This is a crisis. I mean, I've watched, I've been here for 36 years here in Midtown. Our homelessness, housing, and health and incarceration they all intersect, and the bad policy is driving all these numbers up, and it's criminal. I've seen the hotel boom in Midtown that squashed a lot of tenement buildings. I've seen the Hudson Yards being built, and now they want to bring developers into Nycc and the Penn Station, the Vernado, I should say, Vernado and the ESD want to expand a commercial district from river to river without a thought about housing, and everybody's got their own idea of affordable. And thanks, William, for your numbers and so forth. But we've got 988 people that are rent controlled and rent stabilized, and they're constantly being pushed out. Why? Because there's not enough housing. Nobody's building housing. This is a crisis. And I'm very passionate about this. And I think the community boards and everybody should be working to build more of it, to find an equitable solution. You don't start in the middle, you start from the ground up and build up. And we need that foundation. We need a strong foundation. People who are homeless do not stay homeless if they're housed. They become productive members. And what we're doing is we're overdeveloping for wealth's sake, and we're underdeveloping for people's sake. And we have to stop it. And it's not getting better. It's far from getting better. We're on a dive down to the bottom. And we need to work together to build more.
Time has expired.
Okay, and I'll leave it at that. And thanks, William, for laying out some numbers. It took away some of my talking points. Great, thanks, bye.
Thanks, John. I'm going to try to call on Robert Mays. I know you're calling, and apologies, Robert, for skipping you before. See if you can unmute.
Yes, hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity to speak and give my piece of supportive housing. Getting to the point, supportive housing works. Housing works work. Reason why I'm saying that is because for 2 years since I've been in this organization, I have not had any legals. In fact, got everything cleared legally, and productively is moving forward with my appointments, as kept key players in the game, Ms. Holder, and she have an assistant called Mia. She works together with her simultaneously to make sure each person have their appointment set, ready, and approved. So that way, medically we can stay on point. Housing works. Next. What? I only got 2 minutes. They want me to still talk? I'm on the air.
Robert, okay. Thank you, Robert. The next speaker will be Norman Smallwood.
Time will begin.
Norman, if you're there, can you accept the unmute request? We're going to go back to Norman, so I'm going to call on Robert Firth next, and we'll go back to Norman to see if he fixes all your issues.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. My name is Robert Firth, aka Ruby Rims. I am a resident of going on 27 years at Manhattan Plaza. I am speaking in favor of the L'Oreal project, and I believe with the help of Eric Botcher, we can really make this work. I've heard a few people here today talking about drug addicts moving in. For your information, I was never a drug addict. I am a 30-year AIDS survivor, and this is a whole myth, and I really find it disgusting that you're bringing this into the issue. We need housing for everyone. I am blessed to be where I am, and I would like to see other people blessed to have an opportunity to have housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. We're gonna try Norman Smallwood one more time. Norman, if you're there, can you please accept the unmute request?
Hello?
We can hear
Hello?
you. We can hear you.
Hi, I live in Bailey House, and I think Bailey House is amazing. I've gotten certificates. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I go to all my appointments. Every appointment I have, my doctor's appointment, I've had AIDS or HIV over 30 years. And I really appreciate Ms. Holder, Mia. I appreciate them because they stay on me. And I stay on them to make sure that I go to my appointments because I really do appreciate it. When I had no place to go, but when I came to housing work, my life just changed. And I thank you all.
Thank you, Norman. Chair, I don't see any other Sorry, I don't see council members with questions for this panel, so I'm going to call on the next panel, which will be Betty Claude. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Ankur Dalal, Benjamin Wetzler, and Rebecca Sawyer. Betty Claude will be the first speaker.
Good morning. My name is Betty Colod. I'm an HIV specialist and primary care physician working with people who use drugs. I'm speaking on behalf of New York Doctors Coalition in support of Valeria. It is 41 years almost to the day since the HIV epidemic began, ravaging the LGBTQ community before many New Yorkers were even aware of the virus. As Peter Staley described from firsthand experience, back then, people living with HIV and allies banded together to fight for diagnosis, treatment, and housing, and other essential services for people living with HIV. As a direct result, HIV is now a chronic condition rather than a death sentence. HIV should be history, but sadly it is not, only because the most marginalized people continue to lack the basic necessities to protect themselves from HIV and to take care of themselves once they contract it. Housing is essential for health, particularly among people living with HIV. Supportive housing significantly improves participation in HIV primary care, viral suppression, and overall survival. Further, housing for people living with HIV decreases HIV transmission through decreased needle use, needle sharing, and condomless sex. But housing is a key to health in general, not just for people living with HIV. My patient Lewis was sleeping on the street for the past 2 years, and his heroin and alcohol use and general life chaos were worse every time I saw him. He lost 60 pounds, and his out-of-control blood pressure began to do permanent harm to his kidneys. He experienced an overdose, the leading cause of death among people experiencing homelessness, but fortunately he survived. Recently, he received supportive housing, and in the 2 months since his placement, he has stopped using, his blood pressure has been controlled, and he is gradually regaining weight because he has the stability, security, and safety to maintain his medication and food and to take care of himself. He is so grateful for the housing we helped him access that Lewis gave me a card thanking me for healing him with love. We must house our lowest income, most vulnerable neighbors while recognizing and addressing the affordable housing crisis in all income brackets. On June 5th, 48,171 of our neighbors were sleeping in shelters. An estimated 2,376 more New Yorkers are unsheltered, like Lewis was. Hell's Kitchen, a neighborhood with many decades of LGBTQ history and the highest concentration of residents living with HIV in New York City, is an ideal location for this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty. The next speaker will be Ankur Dalal, to be followed by Benjamin Wetzler.
Thank you. My name is Ankur Dalal, and I'm a longtime West Side resident speaking in favor of the Lorio project today. I support this project because it will bring over 100 affordable homes, including nearly 6 homes for longtime survivors of HIV and AIDS, to a neighborhood with a median household income of over $90,000 a year, well above the city average. I think it is important for wealthier neighborhoods to welcome this type of housing, and as a member of the city's LGBT community myself, I'm particularly heartened by the inclusion of homes for HIV and AIDS survivors in a neighborhood like Hell's Kitchen. But putting aside the considerable merits of this project, I want to take a minute to comment on the opposition. After voting down the proposal, Community Board 4 wrote to the City Planning Commission arguing that they would only support the project if it included fewer affordable units. I think it's galling that CB4 would attempt to wrest away homes from the city's most vulnerable residents. And I also think this letter illustrates the impossible situation our city's home builders find themselves in. The recent 145 project in Harlem would have produced 458 affordable homes, but the local council member thought that having 51% subsidized units was still not enough. Here, we have 112 supportive and affordable homes, but the local community board thinks that having 100% subsidized units is too much. There is seemingly no mix of housing that is actually acceptable to communities. And by entertaining this kind of micromanaging for every housing project, we are sending the message that no housing project is actually welcome. And to echo what some of the speakers said earlier, if the community wants these residents to be integrated into the larger community, to me, the best course of action is not to demand a particular percentage breakdown of income levels for each apartment in the building, but instead to welcome these new neighbors with open arms instead of fighting their presence here at every opportunity. To the extent that the concern is that this project needs more middle income or more units generally, I want to note that the purported desire for more units is incompatible with HPD shrinking the project and increasing the setbacks to accommodate the aesthetic desires of CB4. The community board seemingly wants more units, but wants them designed so that no one can actually see them from the street. Finally, this project in no way precludes middle income or market rate units from coming to the neighborhood, and I would gladly support Councilmember Botcher in planning for them. He said he wants to build many more units, and I'm strongly in favor of rezoning Hell's Kitchen more broadly to allow for more housing. But if the council wants to supports more housing, we need to approve good projects when they come up. I urge you to support this excellent project. Thank you.
Thank you, Anchor. The next speaker and the last speaker on this panel is Rebecca Sawyer.
Time will begin.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Thank you. My name is Rebecca Sauer, and I am the Director of Policy and Planning for the Supportive Housing Network of New York. The network represents more than 200 nonprofits across the state that collectively run more than 55,000 units of supportive housing. I'm testifying today to express my organization's strong support for the LIRIO. The LIRIO presents a unique opportunity to provide much needed supportive housing to people living with HIV/AIDS, as well as permanent affordable housing for families in an integrated manner in Hell's Kitchen. The Hell's Kitchen community faces the threat of rising rents that push out long-term residents and continues to disproportionately struggle with the ongoing HIV/AIDS epidemic. According to DOHMH, the Chelsea Clinton neighborhood has the highest concentration of residents living with HIV in the city. Supportive housing is a crucial tool needed to end the ongoing HIV/AIDS epidemic and homelessness. The LIRIO provides just that. Residents will not only benefit from stable, affordable housing, but will receive person-centered services and case management from Housing Works. This combination is crucial to ensure people are connected to appropriate health care, allowing for consistent access to medication and staying up to date with appointments. Housing Works was among the first organizations advocating on behalf of this population, while Bailey House created the very first supportive housing residence for people living with HIV/AIDS. Both organizations, now merged, have been long-standing and innovative members of the Supportive Housing Network. The network also firmly supports the proposed affordable housing at the LIRIO, which will serve New Yorkers earning from 40% up to 80% of the area median income, which is over $96,000 for a family of three. New York City faces an immense housing crisis that has only worsened due to the COVID pandemic. We need more affordable housing at all income levels, but especially for the most vulnerable New Yorkers. I ask that the council join the support for the LIRIO, a transformational project that will provide much needed supportive and affordable housing while contributing to the dynamic and beloved Hell's Kitchen neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. And then actually I misspoke. The last speaker on this panel is Benjamin Wessler.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone, and hello to the council members. My name is Benjamin Wessler. I'm here speaking in support of the project. I am currently serving as a Democratic Party district leader from the east side of Manhattan, but in my time kind of working in advocacy, specifically around affordable housing, I've gotten to know a lot of the people on Community Board 4, and I know that a lot of them are very dedicated and care a lot about this issue, and specifically about trying to create as much affordable housing as possible. And so that's why, you know, I want to make sure that we all recognize that, you know, they are correct, that we don't want to see large concentrations of only low-income housing in kind of areas that are separated from the rest of the broader of the city and the community. But for that reason, you know, I agree with Councilmember Botcher that only 111 units at the site is probably insufficient, that they could be accommodating a lot more. And as we heard from the representative from HPD, in a lot of cases, it's due to the building constraints that are created by the current zoning in the area and by different parts of, you know, different demands that were made on the actual building envelope. So that's why I would kind of urge the council, you know, it sounds like it's too late. We would have to start over with the EIS and everything to change the scope of this project, but I really would urge the council to take a yes and approach with this, and to re-examine the Clinton Special District after approving this project, to look for more opportunities for middle income and mixed income housing, so that we're not, you know, only pushing all of our supportive and low income housing in these these small handful of sites. I had a conversation with the council member from my neighborhood last week or 2 weeks last week, specifically about sites on the east side that I think would be great for zoning changes to accommodate things like that. And I would urge the council to kind of think in those terms, rather than try and subtract the number of affordable housing units that can be accommodated on the site, deeply affordable and supportive housing units that can be accommodated on the site. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benjamin. Chair, I don't see any council members with questions for this panel. So I'm going to call on the last panel for this hearing, which will be made up of Eric Epstein, Jesse Lang, Christopher Tepper, and Eric L. Sawyer. Eric Epstein will be the first speaker on this panel.
Time will begin.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. Are you able to hear me? Great. My name is Eric Epstein. I'm the president of Global Impact Productions. Our company produces outdoor challenge fundraising events such as charity bike rides for select nonprofit organizations. And so in the interest of transparency, I want to start by telling you that one of our clients is Housing Works. We produce Breaking AIDS Ride to benefit their advocacy work on behalf of people living with HIV and AIDS. However, our ride does not benefit Housing Works property development, and we have no financial interest whatsoever in the Lirio or any of Housing Works properties. With that out of the way, our company, whose office is located on 9th Avenue and 45th Street, just down the street from the proposed Lirio, fully supports this project. We endorse it as a neighbor, as a neighborhood business, and we endorse the Lirio for what it represents. I know a number of others have spoken about a deal that the Bloomberg administration had made in the past. I'm not a zoning specialist. I can't speak to deals that happened over a decade ago, but I can address the need today. And the need is to address homelessness and at-risk people living with HIV. As Councilmember Botcher said, we won't solve the entire problem of homelessness with this one facility. But I do believe that this will make a dent. The thing about Housing Works is that they've come to the table with a solution to the root problem, and I mean a policy solution. Their plan is to develop not just housing, but supportive housing. And you've heard others speak to what that means. Supportive housing for New Yorkers living with HIV in one of the neighborhoods that's been hardest hit by AIDS. This building will provide a place to live, plus healthcare, case management, emotional support for some of the most vulnerable of our neighbors. And it's important because of the 50 most populous cities in America, New York has some of the most unaffordable housing. And we all know that, but we have the highest per capita income, the highest. If we can't fix homelessness with all of our resources, who can? But to do it, we need bold solutions like the Lirio, which is why I'm so pleased to see it being developed in our neighborhood. It's a creative, robust solution to a long-term problem. We should be embracing it as a welcome addition to our thriving and diverse neighborhood. I hope that you'll agree and that you'll support the Lirio as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. The next speaker for this panel will be Jesse Lang.
Time will begin.
Thank you. My name is Jessie Lang. I'm a Manhattan resident and I work in City Council District 3, just a few blocks away from this proposed site. And I'm speaking today strongly in support of the Lirio. You know, it's been really upsetting, to say the least, to see that the community board and really a vocal minority of residents are attempting to block this proposal as it is right now, because they instead want housing that would serve higher income New Yorkers. I really can't believe that there are members of this community who can walk down their street and look at the parking lot that's currently in this site and then observe their homeless neighbors living in unsafe and undignified conditions on the street and say that it's better to stick with the status quo than build permanent housing for New Yorkers who need it the most. This development will also provide affordable, supportive housing for people living with HIV and AIDS, which is another really important consideration with this project. It's been really shocking and honestly so disappointing that anybody would be willing to oppose such badly needed housing for such vulnerable individuals. Access to housing is essential for people to address their health care needs, and providing good housing and services is a huge added benefit to this community. It's also really so important for wealthier and whiter neighborhoods such as Hell's Kitchen to allow affordable housing and work towards eliminating residential segregation. I would be really proud to welcome this development and many others like it, and lots of other housing of all types for that matter, into this neighborhood, and to know that Hell's Kitchen is playing a really important role in meeting the housing needs of its residents. So I am asking that City Council agrees with me and votes in favor of this project in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. The next speaker will be Chris Tupper. Hey, Chris.
Hi, Angelina. And hello, good morning, Chair Lewis, and also Councilmember Botcher. I'm Chris Tepper. I'm the co-founder and vice president of the board of the New York City AIDS Memorial Organization. I'm here to speak in strong support of the Lirio project. And for what it's worth, I actually think it's a beautiful building, tastefully designed, contextual in the district without being kind of a faux historical replica. And it will be a very fitting and dignified home for the mixed income residents that I hope you will approve living there. I'm most excited about the Lirio project for the 59 units of supportive housing targeted for long-term survivors of HIV/AIDS that will live there. As other speakers have noted, from a policy perspective, this is really a fitting place for those residents to age in place. Hell's Kitchen remains one of the neighborhoods with the largest concentrations of men and women currently living with HIV, and to create permanent housing for long-term survivors to be able to age in place with appropriate supportive services in a community like that is really kind of top-notch policy. This project is going to be a national model in addition to the on-site high-quality supportive services that will be provided by Housing Works, which are really a critical part of ending the HIV epidemic, in making sure that people stay on their medications and get treatment and don't pass on the virus. As others have noted, this project is just blocks away from Housing Works federally qualified health center on 48th Street, which will provide even greater HIV-specific primary and behavioral care for the long-term survivor residents. I think for one of the reasons that I founded the New York City AIDS Memorial was really to honor and support the men and women who've been living with HIV AIDS for so long, like Peter Staley and Eric Sawyer, who will be speaking next. They're lucky to have housing, despite the fact that they saw their communities devastated, their social fabric and networks devastated, the fact that you could be fired from your job for being gay or having HIV for many decades. But not everyone was as lucky as them. And so I think we owe it to our community to build housing specifically dedicated for the long-term survivor community. And I'm sure that the council members will do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you. The next speaker and the last speaker will be Eric Sawyer.
Time will begin.
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, Eric Botcher. Nice to see you there, and hello, everybody else involved in this hearing. I am a long-term survivor of HIV myself. I've been symptomatic since 1981 when this illness was still referred to as GRID, the gay-related immune deficiency. We just passed Long-Term Survivor Day on June 5th, a day created to draw attention to the plight of long-term survivors and pay recognition to their struggle, like so many other people living with HIV because of side effects of medications, inflammation, ongoing rapid and early aging in my body. I've had double hip replacements. I have cardiovascular disease. I have recently had cancer, and my medical condition is not unlike many other long-term survivors. All long-term survivors end up needing supportive housing. There are more, we've heard from a number of people living with HIV in the Hell's Kitchen district. I can't tell you how many of my friends living there have had to leave that community because they could not any longer take care of themselves independently. There's a huge need for long-term survivor supportive housing, and this neighborhood needs it more than anybody else. So I'm speaking in favor of this development. I think that Housing Works does a great job in supporting all the needs of its clients, and that the fears of allowing long-term survivors to continue to reside in this neighborhood is not going to change the fabric or the safety in this neighborhood. And so I'm supportive of this project, and I urge you all to pass this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Chair, that was the last speaker. There are no other speakers signed up today, so you can go ahead and close the hearing.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Council. I want to thank all the members of the public who took the time to testify, advocate, and share concerns on this project today. Being there are no other members of the public who wish to testify on the Lirio MTA project, the public hearing on these items is now closed. That concludes today's business. I want to remind everyone, if you have written testimony on today's items, you may submit it to land use testimony at council.
Chair, can you hold on just for 1 second? It looks like we have one more.
Yes.
One more person. Hold on. We have one more attendee. Give me just 1 second.
Okay.
One second, Chair. I'm just trying to establish procedurally if we can have this witness testify. Give me just 1 second, because you had just closed the hearing. Hold on. All right, Chair. So we're going to allow this witness to testify. We're just going to do, I'm sorry about the background noise on my end. We're just going to have you reopen the hearing for the item, and then we're going to call on the witness.
Okay, now we will reopen the public panel regarding the Lirio MTA project. So Council, I'll yield to you.
Yes, so can we have the last speaker that just signed up to testify just now? Give me just 1 second. I'm getting their name. Jeffrey Curter. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Jeffrey, are you there?
I am, thank you.
All right, go ahead.
I am the Reverend Jeffrey Corder. I am a pastor in Forest Hills. You may wonder why I'm speaking about this. I am vice chair of the Justice Ministries Committee for the Presbytery of New York City. We also work with the New York Council of Churches. I wish to speak in support of this proposition for affordable housing because it's a moral issue. From a personal perspective, also, let me just say this. I spent many, many years in the suburbs. I now live in a very dense part of New York City and Queens. Saying people can move to another place isn't always the case. And having public transportation is vital for people living in urban areas. Our own daughter has not learned how to drive. So saying that there's options for people to go to is not really necessarily the case. So I fully support this. Taking care of the least of these is a moral mandate in every faith tradition. So I appreciate your listening to my comments, and I hope that you will approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Chair, I'm checking to see if there's any last minute people who signed up, just to make sure before you close the hearing again. But I just want to make an announcement that, as always, you can submit your testimony to us at landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov after this hearing. Let me just confirm no one else signed up. Chair, it looks like no one has come in, so we can go ahead and close the hearing again. So top of page 13.
Or this public panel is now closed. This concludes today's business. I remind you that, as the council mentioned, if you have written testimony on today's items, you may submit it to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number or the project name in the subject heading. I would like to thank applicants, members of the public, my colleagues, subcommittee council, land use staff, and Sergeant at Arms for participating in today's hearing. This meeting is now adjourned. Have a good day.